Coming up this week on the ADG podcast, we have sports, we have music, we have a brand new trailer review, and we have an interview with Fox 2's own Dan Miller. All that and more on the ADG podcast.
Jacob's research is awful. Picking dodgeball players, I'm picking the kids that can throw the ball. I just blew LeBron. I don't care what team he's in.
Okay.
No, it's okay. They did a broadcast this morning and had like one viewer. Good job, guys. That was me again.
Did we ever see a cover of Eddie Murphy's Party All the Time?
But this is the Lions we're talking about. So anything's possible. Kicker, long snapper. Nobody else matters, right, Darren?
Not to me. Not to me. It's top five time.
Top five.
Today.
Wow. Did you really say that Miss Congeniality is better than The Blind Side?
I say she dressed like a hooker. This is at a diner.
You know, show some respect, show some class, and just don't be a bunch of dummies.
See, I think there are other better gangster movies than Scarface. For God's sakes, look at your goddamn boots. For Christ's sakes, it's not the girl roots.
All right, welcome. What's up, Darren?
What is up, Jake? Happy December.
Yeah. Oh, man. Now you can officially start playing that Christmas music.
Yes, Mariah Carey
Now,
on repeat all day.
You're allowed. I want some Wham on my radio station.
Little Last Christmas for Jake.
That's
There you go.
correct.
That's it.
Get that Christmas playlist going.
That's it. Does Europe have a Christmas playlist that they have?
Surprisingly, no.
No? Well, that's a
No.
shame. That's
It
a
is.
shame.
It is. I agree.
For those of you who
man.
don't know, Jake is a big Europe fan.
Yeah, we covered it in like the third or fourth episode of this
I
of the
know,
first
but
season.
I'm saying for new listeners.
Refreshing it for our new listeners.
Exactly. just here to help.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if that's helping.
So, Jake,
yeah.
so Jake, big episode we have on tap for this week.
I think so.
A lot of good stuff. You know, we're in the spirit of giving, so we're giving our listeners some great content to listen to this week. Like we said in the intro, we have music from Manzee coming up later. Your garbage person of the week and top five, and also we'll have Dan Miller from Fox 2 News, the sports director. He'll come on and he'll talk about Lions, a little bit about his career, and everything else. It's going to be a pretty good show.
It's tremendous. I can't wait.
Yes.
It's gonna be awesome. But
Yes.
let's start off with some sports.
Yes.
Sports recap.
Exactly. A little sports recap, and well,
There you go. That's the sports recap right there. Now we're good.
Now we're
Next.
good. Oh, especially when it comes to talking about the Lions. As you know, they played their annual Thanksgiving Day Classic,
Isn't that
it
awesome?
it was it was interesting. I think that's the
It
best
was.
word for it. It was interesting because they had the first NFL start of another quarterback for the Detroit Lions, because backup quarterback Jeff Driscoll was out with a lower body injury. So third string quarterback David Blau made his NFL debut under center for the Detroit Lions against the Chicago Bears on Thanksgiving, and he started off pretty good. I must admit, it was surprisingly good. You know, hooking up with Kenny Galladay, a long 75-yard touchdown pass, and then another quick touchdown pass to Marvin Jones, and he was like, okay, maybe the Lions put together a good effort on Thanksgiving. National TV audience. Their only real marquee game of the season. Nationally, I should say. So yeah, they obviously they played well for the first 3.5 quarters of football, and then the fourth quarter, the defense let them down, making Mitchell Trubisky look like another Pro Bowl.
Which is a shocker because tell me the defense is pretty bad. Yeah, that wasn't a surprise. I was just waiting for
I
that.
know. Once again, and the Lions had a chance to win the game at the end, but got picked off. So their record is now a lovely, tremendous 3-8-1. as they move on to Minnesota this week to take on the Vikings. That should be a fun game.
Yeah. And we'll talk to Dan Miller later today with
Yeah, we'll
one
get
of
his
the
thoughts.
fans. Yeah.
You, you, you know, me and Jake have the luxury of turning off the Lions game when it gets to a certain point. Dan has to sit through every single week, no
And
matter
even
how
worse, he
bad,
has to call the
and
game
he has to
on
describe the game
WJR.
on the radio for all those hardcore Lions fans that listen every week. I don't know how he does it.
We'll ask him. We'll ask him.
He should ask for a raise. If I were
Yeah.
him, I'd ask
Yes,
for a
I
raise
agree.
to go through all this pain and torture. So that's coming up. Um, Moving on, Jake, we got to talk about your Michigan Wolverines. Not the
Yes.
basketball team, but we'll talk about the football team. Once
Yep.
again, prove that Jim Harbaugh's system, his players, it's not working against the real teams that they have to play and they
Well,
have to win against. Ohio State once again put a hurting on them, 56-27 this year,
yes.
beats them again.
Well, let's remember what Ohio State is. Ohio State doesn't give a shit about the Big Ten and about who plays in it. Ohio State gives a shit about
They're
teams like
national.
Alabama, who
Mhm.
lost this
Yeah.
weekend.
Yes.
Teams like um, uh, Clemson, teams like Georgia. They care
Yeah.
about those teams because those teams on the regular make the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan, Michigan State, and all these other Big Ten teams do not make the playoffs. So
Right.
Ohio State is in a totally different category than any of the other universities. They've been building towards that. They are that team for the last 5-10 years, and it's not even comparable. If you look at how everybody plays in the Big Ten
Right.
to Ohio State, technically Ohio State is now in a permanent top 5 position
Mm-hmm.
in NCAA football, and it's going to stay there unless something drastic happens. It's in the league of Alabama, who's won so many championships. It's in the league of Clemson, who's won so many championships.
Mm-hmm.
It's in that league of consistently winning.
Yeah.
Michigan's not there. Michigan's
No.
not even close. Michigan State's not there. They're not even close. None of
No.
these teams in this here are close. It's just a totally different type of game.
Right. It really comes down to just pure talent and execution. And Ohio State has dominated Michigan so many years, year after year, and just not like beat them, like humiliate them, like going into someone else's stadium and putting up that kind of score on them with all the hype and and the prestige of Ohio State Michigan game, the game, air quotes, that they hype this up, that the media really hypes it up, but everyone knows it's a one-sided. It's not even a rivalry anymore.
It hasn't been for a very, very long time. And you can't
Exactly.
call it that because, like I mentioned, one team is doing exactly what it's supposed to do to make itself better. The other one is just not. And no team in Big Ten is doing what they need to do to get to that
Mhm.
level. It's really
Yeah.
hard. You have to find the players to do so, and Ohio State is just doing everything right.
Yeah. And then Michigan, fans or the people that went to alumni, they really have to start questioning, like, is it worth another year of Jim Harbaugh to get another crack at this, or is he gonna end up going back to the NFL? Because I know that there's openings. Like
Hmm.
I just saw yesterday that the Carolina Panthers just fired Ron Rivera as their
Yes.
head coach. So
Yep.
that is there's an opening right there with someone that he coached at Stanford, Christian McCaffrey. You know, there in Carolina, that might be a interesting place for him to go to. It's just really that whole, they hype him up, they hype the university up as this world beater, university, football program, but in reality, yeah, they beat the teams that they're supposed to beat. But when it comes down to like the big teams, the teams that will actually put people on notice, they just fold like a cheap tent.
Well, again, there's a talent gap, and that's all from getting the right players, and they haven't been getting the right players because
No, Jake,
no quarterback,
in those
nothing.
exactly
That's where it
in
starts.
in those 5 years that he's been there, that he hasn't had one NFL caliber quarterback.
Nope, not at all.
Shea
You
Patterson.
think he'd be the guy who can identify talent, and unfortunately, he hasn't.
Exactly, especially at the quarterback position since he played there. You would think he'd know what he's looking for.
That's true.
So that's another head scratcher for Michigan football. So from Michigan football to let's brighten up everything with Michigan basketball. They look pretty good. They beat Gonzaga. They beat North Carolina, two powerhouse teams in the world of college basketball. But then they go on the road last night against the number one ranked Louisville Cardinals and kind of lay an egg, which happens.
Again, number one team in the country, right?
Yeah,
that's going to happen.
Yeah,
and if we want to talk about basketball, the Spartans started off strong and then just fell apart.
Yeah, like you said, playing high quality caliber of teams like Duke, and like you said, early on in the year, and I know Michigan State is missing some of the key pieces of their team. So for them to, still be competitive without their, true superstar players, once everyone gets back and healthy, I'm sure you see Tom Izzo shifted into overdrive. He knows when to let his players just run loose when the time is right. Just going into the Big Ten tournament and then into March Madness and the NCAA tournament.
And that's what I was gonna say. Right now, it's December basketball. I don't really don't give a shit until March Madness comes around, and then who's ranked where, and let's get that ball rolling. But that's season 3 of the show.
Yeah, you're pretty much just jogging for position early on in the season right now. Until the calendar flips over to the new year, then you really January, February. That's where you really make your mark, and you see the March Madness and the tournament brackets really start to heat up, and positioning is where you want to be, especially when it comes down to those division tournaments, the Big Ten tournaments. I'm sorry, the conference tournaments. That's where you want to, be playing your best basketball going into those tournaments.
Right. Exactly. There we go. College basketball in December. Fun times.
It's always fun times. So it's better than what the Pistons are showing.
Oh yeah, we're not going there. Which is nonsense.
Oh yeah. So obviously, me and Jake were talking a little bit before we went on the air here about soccer. I know Jake is a huge soccer fan, and the UEFA European Championships, the draw has been done on the weekend for the teams on which groups the teams are going to be in, and we talk about the group of death, which is Group F.
It is Group F.
It is Group F.
Holy shit!
with France, Germany, Portugal, and fourth team, which we don't know yet, but chances are might be Iceland too.
Yeah, playoff winner A. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's not bad. I'm looking at Group A where Italy is. You got Turkey, Wales, and Switzerland. So I think Switzerland's going to be your toughest opponent in that group.
Yeah.
Group B, pretty even. Denmark, Finland, Belgium, Russia. Russia might be the one coming out of that.
Group C. You like Belgium and Russia in that group?
Yeah. Group C, Netherlands, Ukraine, Austria. That's Netherlands, depending on which Netherlands comes out, and whoever the playoff of winner D is, that comes into that group. Group D, England, Croatia, Czech Republic. I put Croatia 1, and a toss-up for 2.
Really? You think England
could go either way?
You think England doesn't have the team to make?
I don't believe in England lately, so.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a toss-up. Could be anything, but Croatia probably should win that group. Here's a surprise: Group E is what I'll be watching: Spain, Sweden, Poland, and playoff winner B from the draw from the play-ins, which might be Northern Ireland, maybe.
Ooh.
So Spain should win this group.
Mm-hmm.
And just because I'm a slappy and from there, Poland should go in second.
He's no homer. He's no homer.
No, realist.
He's a realist.
Mm-hmm. Depending which Poland teams and if a striker actually starts scoring goals on the national stage and not just in clubs. I'm just saying. Lewandowski, I'm holding him to a little bit of a standard here. He actually started scoring on the national stage.
There you go.
There you go. Soccer talk.
Soccer talk. We'll have more of it next year once the actual tournament kicks off, and
next summer.
We'll try to, like, depends on if Poland plays or Italy plays. We'll try to do a quick little Euro Cup recap.
Oh yeah.
Either we'll try to do that. Or you
try
know
not to
what?
break our microphones.
You know what, Jake? Is it possible, like, when Poland plays, I'm sure you'll have a Poland viewing party. I'm sure of it, right?
It might happen, yes.
Yeah. So I'm definitely gonna come over for that because I want to see you in your element, in your glory. Yelling at these Polish players on.
There will be jerseys and hats and lots of cheering.
Sure. I'll be there with my Italy jersey just to be the stick out like a sore thumb.
You won't. I have Italy jerseys too. That's all good.
Oh yeah, but come on. But if it's Poland playing, I'm sure I got some red.
Oh, there'll be only Poland jerseys on that day.
There you go. I was gonna say.
Yeah, but depending what happens, either team goes into
yes.
In the finals, there will be jerseys being worn.
Exactly, and I know I'm sure Erie Street could love the business, especially if Italy makes a nice run into the run deep in the tournament.
Exactly. See, I do have a Spain jersey too.
So look at you, you traitor, you.
Yes. It's a nice jersey. I got it as a gift. It's really nice, actually.
But the person that gave you that gift, do they know that you're not Spanish?
Yes, but it's a really cool jersey, and I actually like it a lot. I have lots of jerseys. I have jerseys of a whole bunch of different players. So.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing wrong
with the jerseys.
That. Okay, all right. I was just asking. That's all.
I'm aware I'm not Spanish. Thank you, Daniel.
I don't know. I don't hear too many Spanish people with the name Jacob.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, you know what happens. You need to have like a backup when Italy and Poland don't make it past group stage. I'm like, okay, who's next?
Which team do I like now?
Exactly.
Jake just goes through his closet. Denmark? No. That's all you need. I think you need a Denmark.
One thing's for sure. You're not going to find me in a German jersey.
Oh, yeah. We don't like those.
No,
don't like those. Yeah.
Not at all.
So Jake, that's pretty much it for sports.
It is.
Well, join us to talk about the Lions and his career in the broadcasting business. Dan Miller, sports director for Fox 2 Detroit, and also the voice of the Detroit Lions, joins us on the ADG podcast. Dan, thanks for joining us. And how are you today?
I'm doing well. I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you.
Great. So, Dan, we want to talk a little bit about how you got into the business, you growing up in Washington, and just tell us about your story. How, have you always been a lifelong sports fan, and what was it that brought you to Detroit?
I've definitely always been a sports fan. I grew up with a group of guys. That's all we pretty much did all year, just baseball, basketball, football, whatever was going on, whatever season it was, we played, and I just kind of fell in love with all of it, and used to read the sports section cover to cover and loved it. And then I started watching the guys on TV, and just decided, that's what I wanted to do. Didn't know exactly where it would take me, but I knew, watching some of the guys in Washington, in particular, was a guy named Warner Wolf when I was growing up, who was kind of the main guy. I used to watch him and then pretend I was him when he was done, and just loved it. And, was lucky enough to get a couple of breaks, get into business very early. And then, right place, right time a lot. Had a lot of people that helped me along the way, and always had done a lot of radio because, quite frankly, I had a hard time finding a job in TV, and things started to kind of break for me a little bit in Washington, and I got some opportunities, and then kind of out of the blue, skipping over a lot, but kind of out of the blue, my agent called me one day and said there was a news director in Detroit that liked my tape, and that kind of led to it. There's clearinghouses that you can go to. Back in the day, it's probably a little different now with the advancements in the internet, but where you would walk in and say, "Hey, I work at X. I need a sportscaster," and you get access to 100 or 200 videos that just boom, boom, boom. To look through, he saw something he liked in mine, along with a couple others, and I think we all interviewed for the job, and I ended up getting it, and that was kind of the story that brought me to Detroit. It was really something that came out of the blue, and it's been a blessing because, man, you couldn't ask for anything more than the fortune that we've had here in a sports town like Detroit. So you don't always know in this business where you're going, but sometimes you get a little lucky before you end up, and I feel like I should do.
Oh, exactly. And you were talking like you started over there at WJBK back in 1997, and you worked with such a talented crew, and Woody Woodruff and Jennifer Hammond, and have those two really advance your knowledge in the sports world, especially when it came to Detroit sports?
Well, it was a time when we came in where the station was kind of restructuring. When things aren't going well with the TV station in terms of ratings, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll just overhaul, the news department. And that's essentially what they did. And they kind of put together a new newscast. I was part of that. They restructured the sports department. And Woody and Jen was there a little bit before me. Woody came a little bit after me. But in essence, part of the restructuring, and to spend 22 years with people is pretty incredible in this business. And we've had producers, Greg Canner, who has been there, who's my main producer, and then others that have kind of come and gone. But we've had, in essence, the same crew of people working together for more than 2 decades, and in this business, that's almost unheard of. So that they've been a part of everything good that has happened to me. They're amazing people and amazing teammates, and I couldn't ask for anything more than what we have together. And when you've been together that long, it's pretty much like family, and I'd say that's certainly how I feel about those guys.
Exactly. You starting back in Washington. You did some work for the Washington Redskins. Explain to us like what you did over there and how that kind of helped you become the voice of the Detroit Lions here in Detroit.
Yeah, I was working at a sports radio station in DC, and to be honest with you, I had tried to get jobs in TV, and I just couldn't get any traction. I couldn't get hired. I was trying to do the thing where you go somewhere and make $10,000-$12,000 a year, and wherever it was, small market North Carolina, small market Virginia, I tried everywhere. I just couldn't get hired. So I was kind of just moving along in radio, and got some opportunities in television, and working at the sports radio station in Washington. They had the rights to the Redskins, and the opening came up for a Redskins beat reporter about 6 weeks after I had gotten there. I went there as an overnight talk show host. And they came to me and said, "Hey, we'd like you to be our Redskin beat reporter," which basically means you go out to Redskin Park every day. You cover the team at practice, pre and post game, on game day, and things like that. So I didn't want to do it. I had gone there to do a talk show, and I told them I didn't want to do it. They said, "Take 24 hours and think about it." I did. I came back and I told them I don't want to do it. I came here to do a talk show. That was the direction I felt like my career was going. And so after the 24 hours, I came back and I said, "Nope, do a talk show." And they said, "Well, you're going to do it." So I went and did it. And it was really the best thing that ever happened to me, because it really allowed me to meet a lot of people that became instrumental in the growth of my career. I started doing some TV hits to, in essence, is, hey, come on our TV show and talk about the Redskins because you're out there every day. So I would do it.
Right.
And that allowed me to kind of get in at the Fox station in DC, and that opened that up. And, the work with the Redskins was great. I mean, anytime you're out in a situation like that and covering a National Football League team, you're meeting a lot of people, you're getting an opportunity to see the inner workings of an organization, you're becoming a better reporter and all of those things. So that certainly helped. And more so in terms of the Lions job was, I got the opportunity to do games for Fox for 5 years from 80 to 84. And that was really just an amazing experience. I went to NFL Europe twice and got to do 5 years worth of games for Fox. My role would vary from year to year. My last couple of years, I think I did 9, 10, 11 games, something like that. And then the opportunity for the Lions came along. So, you're really just a byproduct of everything that you do along the way. And I was lucky enough to have those experiences, which prepared me for the opportunity with the Lions.
Now, piggybacking off of that, because Darren and I are huge Lions fans, and we are sports fans of the Detroit area overall too. Now, Detroit is one of those special cities where you have all 4 major league sports. Now, does that help you or hinder more of what you do as a sports broadcaster in the area? Because there's just a lot to talk about usually in this area.
Well, I think it helps because there's always something going on. And I would add to that, I think we are probably one of the only, cities that has 4 majors and then 2 major college programs for football and basketball. And we obviously have a couple other basketball schools that dip their toe in every now and then, like UDM and Oakland U.
Yes.
So it certainly is. It's a major plus to have that when you do what I do. And I would say further that it's also the passion of the people in Detroit. I grew up in Washington, D.C., which is a very transient place, which, people are coming and going sometimes every 4 to 6 years based on political parties, or, there's a lot of people that aren't necessarily tied to that area from birth. You come to Detroit, it feels different. I mean, it's people that have lived here their whole lives. They're rooting for the same teams that their grandparents and their parents rooted for. So the passion and the roots run deep. And I think that's one of the things that really makes it special. So I think that sets it apart from a lot of other places. And it is, I just can't imagine, many cities, and I'd put it up really against any city anywhere in terms of what we've got, the fans we've got, and what it is like to work in a sports market like this. It just is, I feel like it's second to none.
Yeah. And you know what, Danny, we totally agree. Now, a little tidbit, like we do watch all the Detroit Lions games, and half the time I'm on the road on Sundays in Detroit doing certain things, and I do listen to you on 760 WJR doing play-by-play. And let me tell you, even when I'm home watching the games on TV, I would rather have you in the background on the radio calling the game. Is just the passion that comes through the speakers is just, they can't duplicate that on TV. And I think Darren agrees that is we would rather have that covering the game and watching the game on TV. It just sounds way more of a Detroit spirit that we do have.
Well, I appreciate that greatly. I mean, it means a lot. And it's, it's one of those things where when you are in essence invested in the team because you're out there every day, you're dealing with the players, you're dealing with the coaches. As I've said before, it's no secret. I'm rooting for them to win. I'll tell you when things are bad, but at the end of the day, I want to see them win the game. We always try to, be honest in what we're watching. And unfortunately, we've had a lot of years where we've had to be brutally honest. So, but the passion is there because, we're embedded with the team. We're there all the time. You're in Allen Park every day talking to people. So it's very difficult. Any play-by-play guy that works for a professional team is going to want that team to win. So I would hope you'd get the passion a lot of the time. And to your point about the TV side of it, they have a tough job. And, it's funny how often TV guys just get ripped on by the fans from the cities of the teams that they're broadcasting because A, there's either no perceived bias, or B, too much perceived bias for one team or the other. And it's hard. I remember when I got the Lions job, I got an email from a guy who had, clearly seen me do games on Fox, and I had done quite a few Lions games on Fox. And he sent me an email and he said, I hope you're going to do better because you sounded like an unbiased New Yorker when you did the Lions before. And I don't know where the New Yorker part came from, but I know where the unbiased. Doing a game between the Lions and Bears, then I'm being, sent to at least Detroit and Chicago and perhaps other places. Right. And you couldn't have a bias when you were doing a game for Fox. So right. It's a completely different animal that you're dealing with if you're doing, the game on TV versus the game on radio. So it's a different hat that you wear. And I certainly enjoyed both hats, but this is fun because you feel like you're a part of something when you're in there broadcasting it. And it's been a pretty special 15 years.
No, exactly. Now, you said earlier that you're there with the team. You're at Allen Park. You're talking to these players week in, week out, and you see, and you have seen different types of Lions teams throughout the years while covering this team. Tell me about this year's team. And they had a lot of promise at the beginning of the year, and they got off to a pretty above average start in the 2-0-1, but just what happened? Is it fair to blame everything on coaching? Is it fair to blame everything on the players, or just the ownership? You being there, seeing it firsthand, talking to these players, where do you put the problems that come with this team?
Well, let me say this. I think it's been a disappointing year. I certainly went into this season thinking that this defense was going to be very good, and I had questions about the offense. Well, the offense has been very good, particularly when Matthew was in there. And I would add that, defensively, I think that's been the biggest issue for the team. I just think if you look back at games, they've had plenty of opportunities to win the games late with a stop. Not to say that the offense couldn't have done better, but it just hasn't happened. Right. I think there's plenty of blame to go around. Look, I think you can't absolve coaching, and I think you can't absolve the players. I think, there have been times where guys, I think the defensive line got off to a very slow start, whether it was because of injury, lack of practice during the preseason, whatever it was. And I don't know that it's really recovered. It's supposed to be the strength of the team, and it hasn't been. So I don't look, if you could blame one thing and fix one thing, then you probably could have done it by now. But I think when you're talking about, a season that has kind of gone sideways the way this one has, you really have to look at a lot of different things, from coaching to players, to the roster, that you would have to look and say that's part of the problem.
Right. When it comes down to it, it's really like a lot of people will say, I know it's cliche, that it ultimately falls on the coaching, and Matt Patricia being a defensive-minded coach coming from New England, where he ran that defense for years. Should his seat really be starting to heat up if they don't win the last month of the season?
Well, I mean, there's one person that's going to decide that, or maybe a couple, Mrs. Ford and Sheila Hemp and whoever is else, Steve Hemp, or whoever else is in on that decision. But look, in this league, when you don't win, your seat's going to be hot. There's no way in the world I could sit here and tell you that at 3-8-1 in the midst of a disappointing season, and in the midst of two disappointing seasons, that Matt Patricia shouldn't be looked at. I mean, that's just, he understands that. It comes with the gig. He's already getting the questions like that at his press conferences. So I think when the season ends, you have to look at everything, and you have to decide, do you feel like things are headed in the right direction? Can you make a plausible argument that, this can go right if you do X, Y, and Z, and that the reasons that it went wrong are explainable? So I think there's a lot going on in terms of where they have to look at the end of the season. But I don't think anybody in their right mind can ever sit and tell you when an NFL coach isn't winning that, he's completely absolved of blame or not going to be looked at because it happens every year. We get, roughly probably, I don't know what, 20% of the coaches that get fired every year. I'd have to go back and look at it, but it seems like, every year there's between 5 and 8 openings or something like that. But it's, probably shouldn't put a number on it because it changes year to year. But suffice it to say, coaches are hired to be fired. And when things aren't going well, you're going to be looked at. Doesn't mean you will get fired, but it certainly means that you will be reviewed.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Now, Dan, you came to Detroit in '97, and so you came in when it was the height of the Red Wings era. They're winning cups, making it to year after year into the playoffs, going deep in the playoffs, and then the Pistons winning in 2004, and their Tigers. And also the Detroit Tigers run to the World Series in 2006, and so on. Do you have a favorite moment or favorite event that you've captured that you worked in your time here in Detroit?
I would say there's a couple of them that stand out. Being at the Rose Bowl when Michigan wrapped up the national championship, just a couple months after I got here, that was pretty incredible. Being there when Michigan State wrapped up an NCAA title, pretty incredible. And going to several Final Fours with them as well was there's so many moments. I think, for the Pistons, sitting in the Palace, watching them win that championship against the Lakers, that was just such an electric moment. You don't get many like that. And it was somewhat unexpected. People didn't necessarily think that they were going to do that. A lot of people didn't even think they're going to beat the Lakers. So it was, I just remember just the crowd and the noise and, just how much they just blew their doors off in that last game. And it was so impressive. And, and I would also say the Tigers, I remember game one of the World Series against St. Louis in 06. I'd never been to a World Series game before, and I just walked out onto the concourse, and I had a great place to just kind of stand and watch the game up against the railing. And just the electricity of feeling a World Series game was pretty amazing. And I like I said, I'd never been to one before. I'd obviously been watching them my whole life, but just feeling that, it was palpable and it was different. And I just, never obviously have gotten to see him win one, but to be able to watch a couple of them was special. And, the Wings being there for a couple of their Stanley Cup championships and watching that, I could go on and on. There's so many memories of things that we've been privy to and been able to watch, and, moments with the Lions that, not the moment we're all looking for, but, moments that stick out to me that have been special. And, we're just blessed to do what we do and to see the things that we see and to have front row seats for the things that we are able to watch and cover and bring to people. So and then, beyond that, there's the people that make it all special. So, I could literally sit here and do an hour about things that we've had in Detroit since I've been here. And it's part of what makes it, such an amazing thing to wake up and do every day.
Now, swinging back to the Lions for just a second, we do have a rabid fan base that loves this team. And in your opinion, is this fan base need to be rewarded with, I'm not saying a Super Bowl, but maybe a trip towards the Super Bowl, an NFC North title, something?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 100%. And I don't know what have to means, but deserve to, have earned, all those things.
All the pain and suffering, yeah.
We survived this long.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, the best part of my job as the Lions play-by-play announcer is seeing fans happy, by far. Just that feeling of community and everybody having a good time and the vibe you get on the street, at a gas station, at a food store, at a restaurant. That's the best part of the job. The worst part of the job is right now when things aren't going well and everybody's hacked off and, everybody's disappointed and feels like they've, had the football ripped away from them again. And so, absolutely, this fan base is way past due for something good to happen. And, it's not for lack of trying in Allen Park right now. It just hasn't worked out. And it is their job to figure out how to make it happen. But this fan base is long overdue to get something good to happen to them.
We still have our Stafford jerseys. We're here. We'll be waiting. That's we're not going anywhere. We might hack on this team on and off all the time, but we're not going anywhere.
Well, I think it's fair to criticize. I mean, it's they've earned that at different times over the years, and you can be fans and still be critical, and you can be fans and still be analytical. And I don't think anybody ever asks anybody for, blind faith and loyalty that they can just, never assume that something was done wrong or that things have to improve. I think things do clearly have to improve. The record says that. And I think fans are perfectly within their rights to demand that and want that.
Exactly. We've had your fellow colleague on WJR, Sean Belegian, joined us before the season started. He gave us his thoughts on this team, and he says it's about a 8 or 9 win football team, and for us to be way off like this after a disappointing last year before, which it was Patricia's first year, we kind of gave him a pass because it's his first year. He didn't really have his full system implicated. But now going into potentially Matt Patricia going into his third year with all of his coordinators, something has to change, because Lions fans, as passionate and as loyal as they are, they're getting sick and tired of it, Dan. It just and you see it firsthand with the negative the negative comments and people calling into the radio shows complaining, and just the sheer booing of the lack of, I don't know if it's effort or if it's just they don't have that killer instinct and that will to win. Like you see it, like if there was one thing obviously you said earlier, if there was one thing that we could change and it would fix everything, we would do it. But like you're there, like give me like a top 3 Dan Miller wish list on how to fix the Lions.
Well, I think overall you need to fix the defense. I think the offense, is fine. I think probably offensively, I need to take a look at the offensive line. You got some decisions to make there in Graham Blasco and 5th-year option on Taylor Decker. Those things you have to look at there. Defensively, you got to figure out that defensive line. I think you need probably a guy on the interior that can give you a pass rush and probably another maybe rush defensive end. But you need to figure out defensively how you can put better pressure on the passer. You got too many quarterbacks that are just standing back there all day. And in this league, I don't care who the quarterback is. If you start in the National Football League and you give him long enough, he's going to beat you, and that's what's happened. And then I think probably you've got some decisions to make in the secondary as to how they want to handle that. Are you comfortable with your young safeties moving forward? You feel like they're the guys? Are you comfortable with cornerback? Clearly, there have been some talks about trading Darius Slay, which have been out there. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. But to me, this offseason, assuming everything is intact and guys are coming back from Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn, it is about fixing this defense and then fine-tuning the offense. I think the offense does not need an overhaul. You probably need to figure out if you need another running back to go along with Carry-On, just because he's been hurt twice in 2 years. I think Scarborough's been a nice find. I think he'll be a part of the mix. But I think you might look at another back with some elusiveness back there, that if Carry-On is hurt, you can step somebody in there. I think that's probably part of it. But, so I think that would be my wish list. But, I don't mean to keep harping on it or repeating myself. It starts with that defense. You have got to find some way to be better there.
Right. Absolutely. Well, Dan, I want to thank you for joining us on the A to G podcast. Be sure to tune in to WJR 760 to listen to Dan Miller on the Detroit Lions radio broadcast, and also check him out, Sportsworks, Fox 2 Detroit. He has everything covered. This man knows Detroit sports, and he knows the Detroit Lions. So thanks again, Dan, for joining us on the A to G podcast.
Guys, I appreciate you having me. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
All right, so let's get into a top 5 that I have for us today.
Yes.
And since we've had so much sports talk on the show already, I figure I will finish off the sports talk with this top 5.
Top 5.
And this is off of Ranker.com. It's a nice little list of worst sports teams of all time.
Oh, come on.
Oh yeah. For many reasons, which we will discuss.
You know what, Jake? I thought you were going to be positive. You have a nice positive top 5 or a happy top 5, like top 5 Christmas songs, you know?
We'll get to that closer to that holiday. Yeah.
Okay.
As of right now, no.
No. Okay.
No. So number 5 is a team that I used to like when, way back when, but now the 5th worst team of all time is the Charlotte Hornets.
Oh.
Yes, basketball.
Mm-hmm.
For many reasons, because besides sucking,
yeah.
you know, it started. I think it was founded in 1988. Again, it's a basketball team, guys. And 0 championships, and the last playoff appearance was 2015-16 season, and they did lose.
Yes, but this obviously, they had a lot of pretty good players that played for them back in the day. Grandma Ma and Muggsy Bogues.
That's right.
So, Charlotte Hornets.
Charlotte Hornets. Number 4, getting into a little baseball here, San Diego Padres.
Oh, yeah.
0 championships. Last playoff appearance in 2006, and they lost. And they have an ugly logo. That's yeah.
It's more the logo that Jake hates more than anything else.
It's their stadium with the word Padres under it.
Oh, the Padres.
Good
yeah.
songs. Yeah, I know it.
The only thing that people in the Detroit area know about the Padres is that the Tigers beat the Padres back in 1984 to win the World Series.
Woo,
there you go.
Now the top 3 are football teams.
Yeah.
Now let's see if we can guess any of these.
Gee, I wonder
train
which
wrecks.
one would be worse.
Number 3, the Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh God. But hey, slow golf clap for the Cincinnati Bengals winning their first game of the year this past Sunday.
Yes, which I'm super happy about, by the way. They need about 2 or 3 more wins, and I'll be more happy.
Come on. Another 2 wins would be great.
Yes.
Maybe
a tie. Throw in a tie in there.
I don't know where they're going to get them, but yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
I think they're destined to have the number 1 overall pick this year.
Probably. Yeah. Well, number 2 is no surprise to any, and it's the Detroit Football Lions.
Yes.
With 4 championships in the pre-Super Bowl era, which is great. That was a very long time ago, and 0 Super Bowl appearances. And the last playoff appearance was 1991, and they did.
1991. I was, I was 6 years old last time that they won a playoff game.
Yeah, there you go.
And I don't even remember it.
There you go. For those who don't know, they're founded in 1929, so it is a storied franchise that just hasn't won in the Super Bowl era. Yes. And number 1 is, again, no surprise to anybody, because the only the other dumpster fire besides the Lions, it is the Cleveland Browns.
We couldn't even beat the Cleveland Browns on this list?
No, and there's a reason for that. Yeah, the Lions went 0-16, which so did the Browns. But the Lions didn't get taken away out of the city. And the Browns actually got, see ya.
Not yet. But if they keep losing like this,
that's true. Well, you know what? Maybe if whatever city they go to, it'll be just like the Browns, where They go to Baltimore, they start becoming a really good team.
Exactly, right? They pretty much become a top tier franchise.
Exactly. Maybe that's what needs to happen. But there you go. I thought it was a fun top 5 list and ties into this episode. Yay. All right. So, Dan, which trailer are we talking about?
We're talking about the brand new James Bond film.
It's called James Blonde.
No, I said James
I heard
Bond.
James Blonde.
I said James Bond.
Okay. I heard James Bond. Yes.
I think you have to change your earbuds or open your ear.
I was drinking.
Oh, you were drinking.
Not alcohol, but I was just having a drink.
Oh, he's just drinking. So, yeah, his new film that comes out next year, April, I believe, of 2020. It's called No Time to Die, and there's going to be a lot of hype surrounding this movie. Obviously, him working with another. According to, we watched the trailer this morning. The brand new trailer was just released, and it was a lot of interesting facts I didn't really know, that he's going to be working with another 00, and she's a female 007. So it's going to be interesting to see the transition, because you hear the rumors that this is Daniel Craig's last go around as James Bond, and then the next film potentially could have a female James Bond, which would be the first one in history to have that. I think that's an interesting move. Obviously, it's this franchise has been going on for so many years, decades actually, and for it to keep it fresh and interesting and bring in a new audience, I think that's just a smart move.
No, it is. I don't know if we need to go in that direction and replace James Bond with a female actress. I don't think the James Bond franchise needs to be that woke, but whatever. This might be the last one I watch anyway, because they haven't been super fantastic. They've been good, but not amazing movies lately. The last few.
Yeah.
This one looks good. It kind of brings back the traditional action to it. It looks super intense.
Yeah.
A lot of cool scenes happening in the trailer, especially. So it looks like it's going to be a typical James Bond movie. Brings out the Aston Martin to drive around, so that's
course.
Cool.
Yes. Yes. So everyone wants to know, like, how is Rami Malek going to do as his villain in this movie? And this trailer showed him a little bit, and he looks pretty badass. He looks pretty intense and terrifying as a villain in this upcoming James Bond movie. So it's gonna be interesting to see. Obviously, Daniel Craig's back as James Bond, Rami Malek as his villain. Naomi Harris plays the potentially his partner in this, and also you'll have the originals like Ralph Fiennes plays M, and Ben Whishaw plays Q. So all those great actors in the past Daniel Craig era James Bond movies will be back. So it should be interesting. So it comes out April 3rd, 2020, and then with a budget of $250 million, it should be a pretty visually pretty amazing film.
And they usually are.
Yeah. Just the stunt scenes and the action scenes and just the location shots itself is just quite amazing what they do with this franchise.
Yeah, no, they do a great job putting it together visually. Now, what do you give the trailer right now out of 5?
The trailer, I think visually it looks amazing. Obviously, with a historic, cinematic character like James Bond, you have to do it justice. They're never going to put out a half-assed James Bond movie, or else it would just be called Mission Impossible.
Hey. So tell me Tom Cruise isn't good when he's running all the time in those movies? Okay. Next.
With his little legs and his little arms flailing around. Yeah.
There you go.
So no, I give this trailer a solid 4.5 out of 5.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Nice. Well, yeah, I'm close. I'll give it a 4 out of 5.
Okay.
It's you already said it. Visually, it's gonna look amazing.
Right.
Storyline, yeah, typical villain, whatever. There might be some twists in there, so that's good. A lot of characters to follow, a lot
Yep.
of drama in this thing. But yeah, it'll be good. It'll be typical James Bond, full action, full of crap, full of a bunch of turns. It'll be something to go see, definitely. He said April, so
April. It's supposed to. Well, it says the release date actually April 2nd in the in the United Kingdom, and then April 8th in the U.S. and Canada.
Perfect.
I would assume. So
Perfect.
there you go. So
Sounds
there
good
you
to me.
go. So next, yeah. So that would be great. Next week we'll dig up something for the movie review because we're getting closer and closer to the Star Wars final chapter of their saga. So we may or we'll try to get Jen, the Star Wars nerd, on with us to hopefully she'll see the movie by then, or at least give her thoughts on the movie. We'll see
And
what
we're
happens.
getting closer and closer to our season finale for season 2.
Yes, that's
So-
true.
We're pulling out all the stops, just like today's show. So
Yes,
what
exactly. So
happens. You
stay
never
tuned
know.
for that. That's it.
yeah, you never know. And speaking of pulling out all the stops, with today's music, I have something special for everybody.
Mhm.
Because we are really in the zone right now for music. If you haven't listened to the last couple of weeks, music continues to be great, and we hit another good point today. Because today we're going to be listening to a special artist named Manzee. And Manzee comes to us from the Czech Republic. Well, from the Czech Republic. He's Czech, but he is based in London, Ontario.
Mm.
So this makes it even better because it's kind of local for us. And with special talent like we're going to play for you right now, he's only going to be 20 next year. So he's not, some fully established artist. This kid's pretty young, and he's studying here in Canada. So, and he's decided to put out some music. With his first single that he's got for us today, called Runaway, I think you guys are going to be impressed because he adds a lot of acoustic and blending some electronic music into it. You're going to be, as he says, submerge yourselves in the creative and harmonious vibe. So I think you'll like it because when I first heard it, I'm like, yeah, this is something I want to play on the show. We are a show that provides a lot of really good independent music, and for everyone who tunes into the ADG podcast to hear the music, you're gonna love what we're doing today. And I'm not even gonna waste my time talking too much about it because it's just let the music talk for itself like we usually do. So here's Manzee, and this is Runaway.
You are the one that I need. All that I say and all that I do, picking apart the way that I move, I will always love you. Morning sex to the nighttime walks, talking about it leaves me lost. Stay and love me forever. Don't leave me to sleep alone every night. A joke is all that it was. Come back, I'm sure we could just talk it out. Everybody sees you in the light of the day. Beauty that's so magical. I wish I would play. Waking up beside me, I just want you to stay. That look in your eyes, baby, don't run away. coaster, daydreaming. Time is moving slower, gone, lost in a fantasy. I can't see clear, I'm blinded by my heart. Wait, here I am again. How do I always let you slip away? Everybody sees you in the light of the day, beauty that's so magical. I wish I would play, waking up beside me. I just want you to stay. That look in your eyes, baby, don't run away. Lots of flowers fall for you, and all I see is pain making its way down to me. All I ever wanted was a life where you would be falling for me every day. Everybody sees you in the light of the day, beauty that's so magical. I wish I would play, waking up beside me. I just want you to stay. That look in your eyes, baby, don't run away. Run away. Run away.
All right, so that was Manzee with Runaway. Let us know what you think. Give us some feedback on Insta or Facebook, whatever. Send us some comments, and yeah, if the more stuff comes out, we'll try to play more of Manzee because that's a great track.
Good stuff.
Yeah. All right. You know what,
Mm.
Darren? I have a garbage person of the week.
Oh yes, I look forward to these every week.
This is more of not a person, but a
Mhm.
town. Okay.
Okay.
Because for a northern town like in Wisconsin, for example, where what would you do to have fun in a nice snowy little town? Well, as a kid,
Go tobogganing. I guess.
yeah,
You know.
build a snowman, throw some
Snowman.
snowballs,
Sure. Yeah.
right? Okay, so this town called Wausau, Wausau, Wisconsin,
Mhm.
has an ordinance that decrees that you can't throw snowballs anywhere on public property, not on sidewalks, not on city streets, or at school. If you do, you could be fined.
Wow.
Okay, so this is what we always talk about, where we're raising snowflakes, literally,
Mm-hmm.
where the snowballs in this town are lumped with missiles, rocks, arrows that you're not allowed to throw.
Right.
Okay, one, who throws missiles? Okay, you fucking morons. Who throws an arrow?
Yeah. I think they're just like maybe they're talking about like any objects that are in the snowballs. You know, like that could be in it. But yeah, it's very
You would
rare.
think so. But have you
Yeah.
ever tried putting a missile in a snowball?
I never heard about that. You know, like I
Or
remember
an arrow?
I remember as a kid, you know, like if you just gather snow and you make it into a snowball, and sometimes there might be ice in it or like
That's
little
called an ice
pebbles,
ball.
little
Hmm.
yeah, little pebbles of rocks or something that you don't know. You know, you're just because you're not going to go through it. It's like, oh, does it have rocks in it? No, and you chuck it. You know, it just I can see why they don't want you know people throwing snowballs, ice balls, or whatever you want to call it at cars, driving by, because something like that could cause an accident if you throw it at their windshield. Blah blah blah. I understand the safety factor, but to ban snowball fightings and all that stuff is is ridiculous. Obviously, I think that they're just trying to keep it more like like out of the streets and on the sidewalks, because that's like probably city or town, you know, um, that's what they're responsible for. But I think in parks or on your own property, I guess
It
I
says
guess
anywhere on public property, so it's everywhere public.
wow.
Yeah.
So
So
that kind
basically, what we're telling is, kids, no snowball fucking fights, so you don't get hurt with snow.
that's right,
Yeah,
because
that's messed up.
yeah, because that was the best part growing up. After a big snowfall, you put on your snow pants and you dress, you bundle up, and you just start chucking snowballs at
Right,
each other.
and
'Cause
you're
that's
limiting kids having fun, and you're making
yeah,
these kids stay at home. Now, their mayor, named Robert Melky,
uh-huh.
and I quote here, "It's really in the interest of public safety. A lot
Right,
of it is just consideration and common sense. You don't throw
Mhm.
stuff at people, period."
right.
Okay, this is supposed to be a person who has never played outside ever, or
He was
remember,
an indoor
he's so
child.
old he doesn't
Yeah,
remember what it's like to be a child.
exactly.
And I am never limiting my children to not throwing snow. No, fuck it.
Wow.
Snowball fights all day. We're gonna make this day. Every time we go throw snowballs, we're gonna say this one's for Wausau, Wisconsin, because they
There
can't throw
you
snowballs.
go. You tell your kids you should be throwing snowballs, because other places in North America you're not allowed to throw snowballs.
That's right.
So when they say like we live in Canada is a free country, like that's right. We have the right to throw snowballs.
There you go. So, garbage person of the week
Mr. Robert B. Melky.
from
There you
Wausau,
go.
Wisconsin.
There you
There
go.
you go. And then
Wake
your
up,
Jesus
wake up,
snowball
Wisconsin.
fights.
Let the people throw snowballs.
Exactly.
At least let them throw them like in a park or something. They're like, okay,
No, it's a snowball.
I
Let's
understand
be
that.
serious.
I understand, but just don't throw them at cars. Let's
Okay,
have
well,
common sense.
yeah, see, yeah, okay. Snowball fights, not at
Yeah.
cars.
Yeah, that's right. Throw them at people, not at cars. There you
Right,
go.
exactly. I'm good with
That's-
that.
There you go.
Well, there we go. That was fun and exciting. That was a good show. You guys want to find us anywhere, any podcast app you have on your phone,
Mhm.
wherever you're listening to us, at ADG Podcast. I did a cool search on Google the other day, just for shits and giggles, and every single podcast app
Mhm.
has us on it.
There you
every-
go. So
every
there's no
single one.
excuse. There's no excuse.
Every app, whatever app you're using, we're on it.
That's
So
right.
go follow us, subscribe to us on any podcast app you want. We're there.
Awesome.
Facebook at ADG Podcast. Check that out. Instagram. Go and follow us. The more we get into our off season for after season 2 ends, we have about a month off or so. We'll be posting a lot of crap, so go follow us there. More info on music artists, and when we link them, we mostly link them off of Instagram. So go follow them if you want more music. So we're everywhere that way. Twitter is always fun because we have a little fun with the Detroit Lions on Twitter, with some other people. So if you want to go follow that at ADG Podcast. Issues, concerns, will yell at us, call us assholes. ADGpodcast@gmail.com. Questions or suggestions also there. Well, that's the show. That's the show for episode 15.
Good stuff.
Yeah, so for the ADG Podcast, I'm Jacob.
And I'm Darren.
And we are ADG.